What would you say about in cases like Jeff? And I hate to, you don't ever hear me talk about my case much. I was married twice to the same woman, and I can promise you, I did everything I could, my man. It
Hmm.
was like I did everything. I forgave at points in time that people just would have never forgave,
Right.
and I feel like I had that right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's sometimes that it's just like it's crossed the line, and you can't build a wall with somebody that's not wanting to carry bricks.
Right. And, and you make a good point there with what you're saying. Um, divorce sometimes happens. It's still a tragedy.
Yep.
Sometimes it may be necessary, but we still have to say we can't whitewash divorce and pretend that it's a nice thing. Divorce
No.
is still divorce. And I mean, I understand what you're saying. It would be better to say, you know what? I screwed up the trust. My wife screwed up the trust. Somebody screwed up the trust. How do we rebuild the trust? And how, because marriage is not about you. Marriage is about providing the best environment for your children, the absolute best interest of the child, without exception, almost would be to be raised in an intact family with his or her natural mother and father. We hope with a strong extended family, and we also hope with a society that actually supports and defends the ideal of marriage.
Well, and I tell you another place I have a, sometimes divorce is going to have to happen. When we know
Right.
that, we want to reduce it. And I'm going to tell you, it was the last thing I wanted. I went from 250 pounds in the matter of a month and a half. I was down to 200 pounds. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. It did a number
Right.
on me. I mean, it did financially, physically, mentally, the whole nine yards. It's war. And if you can make it through it, you're a very strong person. But I would say, when we're talking about these marriages, that how do I put this? So I kind of lost my track of mind, my man. There was something I was going to put in there, but it's one of those things because I don't want it to promote it by no means. But when we get, if we need divorce, okay, why are they taking us into court in this versus battle while
Right.
we're in the heat of the moment? That
Right.
is the worst thing you can do. You're making a
Right.
versus battle. You're throwing mud back and forth while you're in the heat of something that's making you want to do away with the marriage in the first place. I think there needs to be some sort of let's come together and do this thing the right way. This is about children here. Let's take the battle out of it and let's see if you can't be together, how are we going to do this together still? Because you're still going to be the parents of that child.
Absolutely. And I there are some divorce attorneys, you've seen them, and they talk about, we're here with brutal divorce tactics. Really? Why do you have brutal divorce tactics? And they look at some of these attorneys. What do they do when you go in to see them? They want to see your balance sheet. How much money do you have? How much can we take from you? How much is this going to be worth it to us? You might have a big net worth. Well, you know what? We'll really be out there fighting for you. And by the way, her attorney or his attorney, we're buddies. We'll get together at lunchtime and we'll have different strategy sessions on how I'll do this and he'll do that. And we'll both pretend that we're fighting for you. Now, we're not telling you we're pretending that we're fighting for you. We're fighting like crazy for you. But the idea is to plunder your assets. And in such a situation like that, they are actually creating enmity between the spouses. Now, what I would say, Eric, that I would love to see, and this might be a different approach, I think we need to look at the divorce industry as big business, like big pharmacy or big whatever. And we need to have regulation. We need to actually have regulation of the divorce attorneys so that there would be a board that would examine them to say, if somebody files, like say, for example, in banking, if a bank does something which is considered an unfair and deceptive act or practice, that would be something that we would say, you know what, I'd like to file a complaint against this attorney for an unfair and deceptive act and practice and give the details. And that there should be an independent review board, not a review board of attorneys reviewing attorneys, not a review board of the foxes guarding the hen house. We need to have an independent review of these attorneys, and we need to sanction them. And I would say that at the same time as well, like if you have a medical practice, You need to make sure that a doctor, if a doctor does, commits medical malpractice, he can be liable to be sued. Well, maybe these attorneys need to be able to be liable to be sued. And if you look at these divorce court tactics, these brutal divorce tactics, they are criminal. They are mafia-like tactics. And, this is not, MMA or something like that. It's not supposed to be a boxing match. And if these attorneys engage in that, well, maybe what we ought to do is turn around and say, by the way, you guys are using mafia techniques and let the mob. In fact, I apologize, because probably the mafia is not as brutal as some of these attorneys are. But, we need to actually hold them accountable and just say, sorry, but you know what? Because of what you've done, you have used a system to beat people up. These are criminal actions. And by the way, I would also say maybe we need to look up our legislature too, because some of these people that are promoting this stuff, they are bought and purchased by the Family Law Association, and they know exactly what they're doing. But they've permitted this stuff. So anyway, I'll stop with that.
No, man. Yeah, you are 100% correct. I hope he doesn't mind me talking about this. I would never say anybody's name. But I actually had a conversation with a politician earlier, and it started off as like, Eric, this is killing me. It's like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I haven't seen my kids in close to 6 months. It's like, I understand. He was like, I feel like if this was a case to where I didn't have money, it would have been over with a long time ago. But because they think I've got money, they just keep dragging this out. And all I want is to see my babies. And you want to be some sense of encouragement. That's what I told him. I was like, you be that light. You're a politician. Get out there, make the example for other people to follow so we don't have to go through this anymore. But I know in my head, he's 100% correct. That's probably what they're doing. They're stringing them along until all resources have been tapped out. And we see that all too much.